Hi friends, welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us today. I thought as it's getting colder out there we could start thinking about Thanksgiving sides and what might be fun to have on your harvest table. So with, of course, our local focus of what's in season here in Central Virginia. So I thought we could work with corn and sweet potatoes, two favorites for Thanksgiving for sure. So our menu for tonight includes whole corn polenta. We'll talk about what polenta is. It's really just grits, I promise. And a twice stuffed sweet potato, some savory, some sweet. So if you have people who love the traditional marshmallow brown sugar top sweet potato, we have a version of that. And then we also have a savory one that's more like a potato skin. So let's get started. We'll start with the whole corn polenta. And I'm using slab bacon, which is easy to find locally. You'll notice though that it has a lot more fat than a traditional bacon does. It's fine. It'll cook out as we cook it over here in the skillet. But I'm just going to cut it into what the fancy chefs call lardons, which kind of sounds terrible. But they're just a little bit thicker than matchsticks. So when we're finished, we'll crumble this on the top of the polenta, and it'll be great and crispy and really salty. Most local bacon that you'll pick up has been salted not with a nitrate, but with actual salt. And so it's much saltier than normal bacon. So just know that as you're cooking with it, as you're adding it to, if you want to add it to a sandwich, a BLT would be delicious. Just know it is saltier than the normal bacon. So as you can see, I've just cut it into strips, and then I'm just cutting the strips into smaller strips. That's what the French call lardons. So we'll cook these. It'll probably take these a good 10-12 minutes to get really crispy, just because there is more fat, there's not quite so much meat. You can do it over a medium heat, a high heat if you're not afraid of setting off the smoke alarms in your house, but it'll take probably 10 to 12 minutes. So we'll go ahead and get this going and then start talking about some of the other things that are going to go into our polenta. So I'm going to put it over high heat, hopefully everything will go fine. I'm going to rinse my hands. Polenta is cornmeal. It's ground a little bit thicker than like a normal what you'd use to make cornbread, so there's still kind of a chewy tooth to it. We have a great mill here that grinds both flour and corn, so I can pick this up locally. If you can't, that's of course fine. Every major grocery store carries polenta at this point. It might just say coarse ground cornmeal, also works well. A lot of people call it grits. We're going to make it savory. Polenta is very Italian. Most Italians would serve their polenta savory with salt and Parmesan cheese and some cream. You can make it just with water if you want, but since it's a holiday and family will be here and we're kind of celebrating, I'm going to make mine with cream as well, so it gets really delicious and creamy. So the way you want to start polenta is by giving it somewhere to go. As I said, it's corn. It's kind of a coarser grind, so it needs a little bit of moisture to help get it started. So we are going to mix our cornmeal in this bowl with heavy cream. Again, it's Thanksgiving. We're here to celebrate. If you prefer to use just regular milk, if you prefer to use water, whatever you have at home is totally fine. This is going to make probably 8 really hearty servings, and it's just a cup of polenta actually itself. So this will go really far. This is a great way to stretch a dime. I know some people, when they think about eating local foods, they're worried that it's more expensive, and it's true, some things, as we've seen, are more expensive. Meat normally is more expensive, but stuff like polenta, like flour, this very cheap, goes a really long way and is a wonderful way to kind of stretch a buck when you're thinking about your local resources. So we have a cup of polenta in here, and I'm going to add a cup and a half of heavy cream and milk. I'm just going to use a half a cup of heavy cream and a cup of milk to kind of cut some of the richness a little bit. Again, if you want to use a whole cup and a half of heavy cream, go for it. I think it would be absolutely delicious. But I'm going to do half a cup of heavy cream and a whole cup of milk. I'm going to whisk this up and then just let it sit for a few minutes so that the polenta can start to soften a little bit on its own. The polenta, this is not quick cooking polenta, which you will see if you do need to go to a grocery store to find it. Quick cooking polenta will cook in 5-6 minutes. This will take a good 25-30 minutes to get to the point where you want it, but just letting it sit here for a few minutes like this will help that soften to start up with. So while this is sitting, I'm going to check on the bacon, which you might be able to hear is already doing great. It's getting nice and crispy, but it still will take a few more minutes. Another thing we're going to top our polenta with is fried sage. I know it sounds luxurious, it tastes amazing, and when you take sage leaves and fry them, they almost look like stained glass. They get really crispy and really brittle, and they almost become transparent, and they're gorgeous. And I think it'll be delicious to fry up just a couple leaves of this in the bacon fat once we've pulled the bacon out, and crumble it on top of the polenta. A nice texture, really great flavor. It totally changes when you fry it up. It's delicious. If you have rosemary, you can fry rosemary. It's really great. Thyme is hard because the leaves are so small. It's hard to kind of fish them out once they're finished frying. It literally takes 10 seconds to fry an herb leaf because they're so tender and so soft. Oregano is also really good fried. Just make sure you don't over fry it because it will burn, it will char, and it'll taste like charcoal. And that is the last thing you want on this scrumptious meal that we're preparing. So, while the bacon is cooking, again, it will cook down a whole lot. There will be a high quantity of fat inside here. We're going to pull the bacon out and drain it on a paper towel, and then we'll reserve some of that bacon fat to use later on. But we're going to let this go. The second dish we're going to make today is our double stuffed sweet potatoes. And I have some sweet potatoes here that I roasted off earlier this week. Great time saver. I know, again, when you're making local food, you do have to cook quite regularly because you can't just run to a fast food restaurant and grab what you want. But if you want to just roast off a whole bunch of vegetables at the beginning of the week, pop them in the fridge, there's a ton you can do with them. We'll look at bundles of recipes that you can do with roasted vegetables earlier on. But these are actually white sweet potatoes. We grow them here locally. I've never seen them before, so I thought it would be really fun to kind of explore what we could do with a white sweet potato. Especially if you have kids at home who love regular white potatoes, but you want to get some more nutrients from a sweet potato for them. This is a great way to kind of sneak in some extra vitamins in a sweet potato. Still looks like a regular one. So these we roasted off earlier this week. 400 degrees, a little bit of butter, some salt and pepper, 45 minutes or so in the oven. They're really tender, and they'll rest 3 or 4 days in the fridge and be totally fine. We're simply going to cut these in half, just like you would do any other twice-baked potato. And you can see it's just this beautiful kind of yellow flesh inside here. Again, when you work with local produce, sometimes they don't always look like what they look like in the grocery store. You have a long, skinny potato. It's fine. It'll taste just as great. It's kind of fun. You can almost eat this one with your hands, which is great. So I'm going to go ahead and slice all these in half. Then I'm going to grab a bowl, 2 bowls, because we're making 2 different fillings, one savory, one sweet, and scoop the flesh out into these bowls to mash up in here. I'm going to grab a quick spoon and just let you see a couple of these before we go to break. Really easy to do. Just grab a spoon. The flesh gets so nice and soft. Just make sure you leave a little bit around the edge so that the potato holds its integrity. I know sometimes that's easier said than done. Once we've scraped all the flesh out of these, we're going to pop them in the oven, just the skins themselves. I'm going to put a little pat of butter in here, pop them in the oven at about 375, 400, so that the skins themselves can crisp up. We're going to rebake them again, so really I guess we should call this thrice baked potatoes instead of twice baked potatoes. But we're going to rebake them again once we get the stuffing in here to kind of melt it all down and get the cheese gooey. But this will help crisp these up. If you love potato skins, as I do, it's so nice to have a really crispy bottom to go with. So I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these cut, get these scooped out, and then when we come back, we'll finish up our thrice baked potatoes, our polenta, and enjoy. Thanks so much.